to tell you a little story about a man named Willie Rodriguez. Okay, and I was going to read something else today because I saw something on Salon yesterday about this guy who was put in prison and tortured for 3 years or something like that because his name had a letter that was one letter off from the letter that they were looking for, so they tortured this man for 3 years. But I didn't read that one because I thought this one has a little bit more hope because there's a little bit of closure to this. Okay, Willie Rodriguez, employed at the World Trade Center for 19 years as a maintenance worker. Rodriguez was responsible for the upkeep and safety of the stairwells within the 110-story North Tower on the morning of 9/11. Rodriguez was the only person at the WT site with the master keys to the North Tower stairwell doors. For fire containment purposes, only doors on every fourth level were normally left unlocked. In the immediate aftermath of the attacks, Rodriguez personally rescued 15 injured persons from the WTC by leading, often carrying them to safety. Having evacuated the injured from the basement levels, he rushed back into the tower and led firefighters up the stairwells, unlocking doors to various floors. As they ascended, he aided in the successful evacuation of unknown hundreds of survivors. At great risk to his own life, Rodriguez re-entered the structure 3 times and even rescued people trapped between floors and in elevator cars by lowering ladders down into shafts. Having helped lead everyone he could find to safety, he finally decided to exit the building. Rodriguez is believed to be the last person to leave the collapsing North Tower alive. He survived the building's collapse by diving beneath a fire truck, where he lay trapped, completely buried in a mountain of dust and rubble for over 2 hours. Barely able to breathe, he thought he would die for sure under that truck, where he was literally entombed. An agnostic, he prayed for the first time in his adult life, as he now unshakably believes God does listen to heartfelt prayers and miracles do happen. Well, there's other ones too. A policeman who had been standing across the street had caught a fleeting glimpse of Rodriguez as he leapt under the truck a split second before the tower collapsed in an avalanche of debris. It was this officer who later returned with help, believing that the man under that truck might still be alive. Rodriguez has been spiritually transformed by this experience and has embraced his faith again with deep reverence. For his outstanding heroism during America's desperate hour, William Rodriguez received a special commendation for valor from President George W. Bush at a special White House ceremony. And that is the extent of the official story as it pertains to William Rodriguez's involvement relating to rescue efforts following the 9/11 attacks. But as you shall see, his incredible heroism was but the tip of the iceberg. Heroism and accolades aside, what is truly incredible about Rodriguez's story is a shocking fact that has been concealed from public knowledge and remains largely unknown to this day. Rodriguez and a handful of co-workers were down in the basement at the time of the attack, actually heard and felt huge explosions beneath their feet in the lower basement levels. While this normally in itself should have been cause for serious investigation, it's the timing of these explosions that is extremely troubling. They occurred several seconds before the first airplane impacted the tower. The first of these explosions, which occurred about 7 to 8 seconds before the plane struck the tower, was so powerful it literally threw Rodriguez upwards clean off the floor as parts of the false ceiling collapsed onto and around him. Rodriguez heard and felt at least 3 explosions going off down in the basement levels within seconds of each other. Absolute pandemonium broke out with screams of bombs rising above the din as terrified workers scattered in all directions, frantically seeking ways to escape. But the bombs were by no means confined to the basement levels. During his subsequent rescue efforts on the upper floors, Rodriguez claims he heard explosions going off all over the building. Felipe David, a colleague who was working at the far end of the basement, level 1, across from Rodriguez, fell victim to the second explosion. David was walking to a supply room when the entire wall suddenly exploded in front of him. Burned beyond recognition, David managed to stagger towards Rodriguez when Willie took one last look at the man and froze. The skin on his face had an almost completely peeled away, exposing raw pink flesh, and the burnt skin of his outstretched arms was hanging horrifically like sheets of loose cloth. David was the first casualty whose life Rodriguez saved by carrying him up to paramedics at street level, after which he returned to the basement in spite of police orders.